Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals On The Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry. This is episode 90. And the best Bengals to wear number 90, I think, are in the last 25-ish years now, I guess. Two players. Michael Johnson, drafted in the third round out of Georgia Tech. Absolute freak show, 6'7", super long arms, could scratch his ankle standing up. Freak athlete, just absolutely chiseled. Had a solid, good career. Not anything to go on the Ring of Honor or anything like that for Bengals history, but a good player. Left 1 year, went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he hit free agency, signed a good deal there. Didn't work out with the Bucs. Came back to the Bengals the following year. These things happen. Look at Von Bell right now. On the other hand, Justin Smith, who probably never lived up to number 3 overall pick expectations for the Bengals. I think at that time we were still coming off the 90s where we were a little bit angry with the team, looking at a guy that's a top 5 pick saying he should be getting 10 plus sacks every year. Instead, what he was a solid 7.5 sack guy with a lot of pressures, high motor, would play against the run, and just would be a pain in the butt for offensive linemen to block. That wasn't valued here. And the Bengals were struggling to keep some of their core players and convince them that better days were ahead. At the time, Takeo Spikes, they ended up trading Corey Dillon. And, it was hard to keep that group together. Justin Smith went on to play for the 49ers, and it was absolutely dominant, or at least was thought of that way. It kind of reminds me of the Andrew Whitworth thing, where I think we knew how good Andrew Whitworth was the entire time he's with the Bengals, and he played with the Bengals much longer than Justin Smith did. But my point is, once he went somewhere that was winning and got a lot of exposure, I think the rest of the league and the fan bases around the league saw how good that player was. And this was the case with Justin Smith. And if you look at their numbers, the time Justin Smith spent in Cincinnati versus the time he spent with the 49ers, they are almost exactly the same, from tackles to pressures to sacks to tackles for a loss to forced fumbles, across the board, almost dead even, included games played too. So it's not like he played much more for the Bengals than he did the San Francisco 49ers. So it's just the perception sometimes when you get out of a team that hasn't won in a while. And I thought Justin Smith was, when I was a kid, I thought he was fantastic. When I got older, I grew to appreciate him and his skill set a little bit more because he created so much for the guys around him. But current number 90 on the Bengals, Chris Jenkins Jr., their second round pick out of Michigan. So we're kicking that in a little bit to the defensive tackles. Last defensive tackle I can remember making an impact wearing 90 had to be Pat Sims. Was he a third round pick out of Auburn? Yeah. He ended up being a solid NFL player for a long time. But Chris Jenkins, we're hoping for a lot from him. If he can be a solid starter or better, right? Well, at least that for the future, because the Bengals are going to need some defensive tackles as BJ Hill's on his last year of his deal. Sheldon Rankins has 2 years on his deal. So today's episode, I want to recap some of this week's mini camp news and storylines. Of course, Joe Burrow did not throw the day that it was open to the media. We don't know if he threw the day before, although the social media did post pictures and videos of him moving and throwing. We have to assume that was from that day. It's hard to say that he wasn't just off that, but at the same time, we know he took Thursday off because we did a video on this last week. We know he took Thursday off last week, and that was a scheduled rest day. He had his golf tournament on Friday. And when this happened on Tuesday of this past week, I was first to say, hey, this is probably his scheduled off day. Yeah, it's weird they did it on the same day the media was there. You'd probably rather him throw on those days just to keep the panic down a little bit. And that's the big story this week, is that media was there and Burrow wasn't. He was there early in the day. He left at some point, was not there for practice, wasn't even out there, wasn't even, standing on the side. So that was open to the media. Jake Browning did his thing. We saw some nice catches over the middle, but from Andre Josivash, which, he's making the most of his opportunity without both receivers being there. We saw Sheldon Rankins for the first time, which is nice. But the big story was Burrow. So then the next day comes, which was Wednesday, and that's closed to the media. Zach Taylor said on Tuesday when he talked to the media after the practice that we've been giving Joe Burrow a day off every day or every week. I'm sorry. And it was scheduled. He mixed days up, which day would the media would be there. And then he would throw. He was specifically asked by Kelsey Conway, would Joe throw tomorrow? He said yes. Uh, it wasn't would he participate in practice tomorrow. And he's also said that we haven't given him consecutive days off. He also said we haven't given him consecutive days throwing either. So there's only been 3 days typically how they've been practicing. So you'd figure at least give him one throw off throw. So Thursday rolls around, and my guy Ian, the one I referenced, he makes Virginia Tech content. Follow him on Twitter. I will retweet his stuff, so you'll see it. If you go to Joe Goodberry at Joe Goodberry, you'll see I'll have Ian's stuff up there on the front page. But he went up on the bridge again. He went to watch on Thursday because we figured, hey, we need to know if Burrow's throwing the next day. Zach said he would, and despite the Bengals showing a video of Joe Burrow walking out with the helmet in his hand, Joe Burrow did not throw and did not participate in practice on Wednesday. I want to be sure on that. Wednesday. If I said Thursday earlier, I'm sorry. On Wednesday. And he stayed on the sideline per my guy Ian. He was on the side with the coaches, with the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks, they all stretched. And then the other quarterbacks went up and started throwing and getting ready for team stuff. And Burrow did not. Burrow stayed off to the side, stayed with the other members of the team, stretching out his lower half, staying active, had his cleats on, was in uniform, but his helmet was not with him, despite the video of him walking out with his helmet. And usually when you don't have your helmet with you, you're not practicing that day. And I kept asking him too, are you sure he's not going to, did they start Browning and then put Burrow in afterwards? So when they went to the full team drills, it was Jake Browning at quarterback. There was a deep ball to Shedrick Jackson, which Ian said was probably a 70-yard touchdown. Another nice throw over the middle to Kendrick Pryor. A couple other notes was Jermaine Pratt and Geno Stone got the veteran defensive rest days off, which means Jordan Battle stepped back into the starter role. Akeem Davis-Gaither replaced Jermaine Pratt at that linebacker spot. And Dax Hill, it appears 2 days in a row, got the nod with the first team at corner over DJ Turner. So maybe nothing to note there other than that. I'm not going to say that like Dax is winning that job. I don't think it's even a competition yet until we can put the pads on and start playing, which comes in camp. But there is mandatory mini camp next week, and we're gonna get a good idea there of if something's going on with Burrow. Because for Zach to say that Burrow would practice and would throw the next day and then he doesn't, that causes a little bit of concern for me. And I'm not concerned yet, right? I'm not ringing fire alarms and pulling switches yet. I'm saying like, okay, curious that they have to, or they're dealing with a little bit of unknowns, right? We knew this recovery would be part of the unknowns. When it first happened, and you saw doctors online, sports expert doctors that were saying this recovery or this injury is something that happens typically in tennis, not so much with quarterbacks. It's kind of an unknown process to getting them back to 100%. And this may just be part of that. Like, hey, number one, if you're feeling anything, if you're swelling up after throwing, which could happen, we are still within the recovery phase of this injury and surgery. We're gonna sit you down and we're not gonna put you out there, which is also a sign of maturity from not just Joe Burrow, but the organization as well. Because there have been issues in the past where Burrow is going to practice no matter what. And I get it. It's Joe Burrow. He's the face of the franchise. He's carrying the entire team. He's feeling that pressure. That's why we freak out whenever he's not out there or when we're concerned if he's injured again. So the team is they have tighter reins on him, it seems, this year. Where if you're feeling anything, Joe, we're not putting you out there. We are not going to risk it. It is June. It is not worth it. If they had that same mindset last year when he tore his calf muscle the first time, strained his calf on a random July practice day, they may have saved their season. And I think even the appendectomy was, hey, he was feeling it the day of or before practice, and then afterwards it ruptured and he had to have an emergency appendectomy. So, like, if you would have said something then, maybe they could have gotten it taken care of and it wouldn't have been as bad of a recovery, right? That's how it goes. I'm no doctor, but I've read enough that says that if it ruptures, it's a much more serious process to clean it up and recover. And then also, of course, the Pro Football Talk agenda from when he broke his wrist or hurt the ligament in his wrist. was that, remember, he had that sleeve on getting off the plane for that Thursday night game. He said he felt some swelling, asked for a compression sleeve or whatever it was, and that's all that was. Well, then he ends up going and hurting his wrist that day. And Pro Football Talk spent the next few months of saying, hey, did they know about an injury? Did they know? Did Joe Burrow know? Did the team know? What, yada, yada, yada. We never got an answer to that. The NFL didn't find any wrongdoing. But still, at the same time, if there was something and he didn't say something, then that goes along with the trend, even if it's true or not. I don't know. But if Burrow is feeling anything, if there's any discomfort, if there's any swelling, he wants to be out there. He is a maniac when it comes to this stuff. You have to protect him from himself. And it is just June, and it's early June. We're not even close yet. The idea is to get him ready and healthy and be ready to go that first week of September. So that's a lot of talking about Joe Burrow to say, hey, don't sound the alarms just yet. We do have next week. We do have media there. And we'll get a better idea, I think, of all of this. Is he going to practice all 3 days? Will he rest one day? We'll see how that goes. And that'll be something we will cover next week for sure. One other note, though, from the practices, and it's going to guide the rest of the show today. I think one of the potential stars of this offense, potential injection of speed and athleticism and playmaking and upside to this offense is at running back this year. And I think based on some of the clips we've seen, media members recording stuff, reporting and reading all the reports, and then my guy Ian being up on the bridge, I asked him, hey, it seems like Chase Brown is getting a lion's share of the first team reps. Is that true? He said, yeah, it seems like it. He's actually out there. He's the first guy out there for their first 7-on-7. I think it was 7-on-7s. When Jake Browning and the rest of the team went out there, it was Chase Brown, not Zach Moss. And then it went Travion Williams and then Zach Moss. So I don't know what type of rotation they were on that day. Maybe just Moss wasn't ready for something or had to wait a turn and then get back out there. But I have seen a ton of clips with Chase Brown out there and splitting reps with the number one guys. And if he has progressed that far, because if we'll take it from last year first, and then we'll jump into what I want to jump into. Last year, and talking to people around the organization, it was they were high on Chase Brown, but they had to bring him along slowly in terms of not only he had that injury early and that probably had a setback, but for a guy with a lot of carries and stuff, there was still a lot of things he needed to learn and a lot of the timing and pacing and the tracks you're supposed to be on as a running back to hit the hole at the right time, at the right speed, and with the right power needed to be learned. And there was a lot of development there that they needed. And then they were almost forced when the season was going down, almost forced just to use him and give him that experience. Because remember, there was a point where Joe Mixon was carrying the load on this team, and he did pretty much throughout the whole entire year until they started mixing in Chase Brown more and more and more. And it's because they started carving out small sections of the playbook. Like, okay, this package is going to be for you. Learn this, execute it, and then we'll move on. So they couldn't give him the full playbook. It wasn't until the end where he was starting to get mixed in more and more. And so that had some concern with me. Like, okay, they see the upside, but there was still some development to go. Now, if he's out there just mixing in with Zach Moss right away, he may have caught up that part. He may have caught up and on the mental side, the physical side, and is ready to make an impact from a guy that I thought coming out of Illinois was worth a third round pick or so, and thought he could be a lot of people want to compare him to Giovanni Bernard, but he's got more size than that, number one. Number two, he's got more long speed. We clearly saw that. He had one of the fastest GPS times, if not the fastest GPS time, which we'll see in a second here. But if Chase Brown is that guy to at least split 50-50 with the number one reps, that's excellent. If he's anything more than that, this team could have a huge boost, not just to the running back position and the explosiveness on offense, speed on offense, which they have desperately lacked at that spot, but it could be a huge boost when you're looking at how to build a roster. They would have 3 years with him now of cheap day three labor type salary, right, at running back, which is ideal. You don't want to spend too much at that position. It's one of the reasons they moved on from Joe Mixon. They give a little bit to Zach Moss. But if you end up with Chase Brown being your number one or getting at least 50% of it, and it's a committee approach, which we all expect, and he's good, man, that could be such a huge boost to actually getting explosive plays to your receivers again. You got to make defenses scared of your running back by ripping off long runs, make safeties scared, and make defensive coordinators bring that safety up because he's going to rip off a 30, 40, 50-yard run. And that's how you do it. And with the topic of Chase Brown, I've got a video I found on YouTube that was just uploaded 3 weeks ago. We're going to watch that and enjoy some of Chase Brown's 2023 rookie, not just the highlights, it's every catch, carry, target that he had as a rookie. And it's fun to remember. And let's have some commentary and go through some of that. So before we get started, I don't want to go and forget this. This is from Curtain Call Replays on YouTube. Give them a subscribe. I subscribe to them. They've got a ton of videos on players that maybe, from other Nico Collins, all their cut-ups from the entire year. So these are a great resource and definitely something that are fun to watch. So the first carry for Chase Brown here is against the Ravens. This is after he came back. I think it was a hamstring injury in preseason. And I think what you'll see early is Bengals just trying to get him mixed in, but also his lack of power early was something that was evident, and that changes, I believe.
On first down, Chase Brown in that running back, and Brown with the catch out of the backfield, and Chase Brown.
Each time you've got to find him and have a plan for him. Burrow, toss it to the outside. Got to find him and have a plan for him. Burrow, toss it to the outside.
So I wanted to replay that one because, yeah, that's Bobby Wagner. But you can see what I'm saying with the lack of power early. He starts to gain that as we go.
Into this understanding, it wouldn't be as easy as it was Monday night. 2nd and 12. Hit down.
I even think these runs are pretty impressive because watch him take on the contact. That safety is roaming down right away, right? Watch him. He's already cutting down here. This was going to be a too high shell. You start showing run. You're pulling over the tight end to lead block. Y insert. That safety crashes down. Now you're not actually getting that advantage. You're getting that extra defender in the box. Chase Brown has to make either that guy miss or absorb that contact and fall forward for a little bit on a 2nd and 12 draw play.
Wouldn't be as easy as it was Monday night. 2nd and 12. Hit down low.
And he does, right? He gets an extra 2.5 yards probably out of that. And now the Jags game. I was down there, First Star Logistics. We went down to the beach house and, had on-field access before the game, which I never had before. And that was awesome. So shout out to them, always being a great partner. But this was the breakout game. You could see it before. I remember I tweeted out, Chase Brown breakout incoming, and he did. This was the one. So this is his first carry from that.
Coordinate that offense tonight. A handoff is to Chase Brown. Coordinating this group. Handoff here to Brown, his second carry. And Chase takes it into...
Showing a little power there, right? Not going down right away. And if you're wondering, like, why aren't we just cutting up the film of this? Well, we did that during the regular season. Every film review we do on Mondays and Fridays throughout the week if you're a new subscriber. This is more of an enjoyment, reflecting, reminiscing type replay.
Handoff is to Chase Brown and a nice move.
Let's see that make you miss, right?
Handoff is to Chase Brown and a nice move. A missed tackle and Brown.
Yeah, he sees the hole. He's got good vision. And you see that he's able to make Darius.
Yes, look at that little stutter, dead leg, bounce out of it.
Just a really nice job.
Browning, who was unbelievable in high school and a record setter at Washington, making his second
beyond the line of scrimmage.
Lots of nice little jump cuts, micro, what am I thinking here? Micro adjustments. That was the word I used when I was watching the film and comparing him to Mixon. Mixon got very elongated and had to very labored in his change of direction as he was getting older. You see it in Chase Brown where he's a little bit stiffer, but you can see how he jumps and makes little slight corrections in order to make guys miss.
In the passing game.
Here is a handoff to Brown, and he's bottled up.
He's making it look easy.
Here is the rookie Chase Brown. He breaks into the secondary, and he's had a couple of nice runs tonight.
A 15-yard run earlier in this game, and now he breaks it.
You see that breaking through 2 arm tackles there? You need to turn would-be tacklers into arm tacklers.
Run earlier in this game.
And there's one right there.
And now
and right there. So beating angles, having that speed. That's why speed is important at running back, because guys cannot collapse on you and get their shoulder into you. You're running through the arm instead.
He breaks this one, but again, you can see the hole that
Good blocking, T.
he
Higgins.
has. And this offensive line, for a group that is really
Good block,
struggled
Alex
overall,
Capitu. I remember that from the
Just
film.
under 100 yards rushing on the night. Brown is trying to get him to the 100-yard mark, and he goes down 7. They hand off to Brown, and Chase Brown broke 1 tackle. Just his 3rd catch of the game. As they hand to Chase Brown, he gets a couple.
Browning dumps it off underneath. He's got Chase Brown. He's the speedster. He's got daylight inside the 30. 1 man to beat. Oh, he makes a move into the end zone.
So this is some film here, right? That's the all 22 end zone angle. This was the first time, like we saw the highlights there in that Jags game where he had a couple of really nice runs, make some guys miss. But there was this one where we were like, oh, he's not just fast. He's fast. That boy is
Browning
fast.
dumps it off underneath. He's got Chase Brown. He's the speedster. He's got daylight inside the 30. 1 man to beat. Oh, he makes a move into the
And
end
then a nice
zone.
move at the end there.
Motion the other way. Kenny Moore has an opportunity to make the play.
Good blocking by I think it was Karras and Volson, Kaplan, Volson, all the way downfield.
He gives a different dynamic to this.
Look at Irv Smith out there.
On second down, he hands it off. It's Brown. And Brown does have.
So again, here's the examples. Is he just a splash home run hitter, or can he grind out these yards here? So contact's going to happen near the line of scrimmage, maybe shortly after the line of scrimmage, if you want to count which part of that is contact. 2 guys contacting him here. This could be just a 1-yard gain. Instead, 5.5, maybe 6 yards out of that. Probably 5.5.
On 3rd down, they'll hand the ball off to Chase Brown.
Again, that's 3rd and 13 though. That's just ending the drive there. They're going to punt.
Goes to Chase Brown, and Brown explodes to the edge, and Grover Stewart. Chase in motion into the bow. Man, wow. On 1st down, they go to Chase Brown.
It's easy for a young guy to be.
All just
Some lessons to Burrow.
garbage yard
He's
here.
gonna dump the screen.
Another
He's got
screen to Chase Brown.
along the numbers, explodes and high steps across the 40, and he's still on
Again,
his feet.
contact. What I was going to say with garbage yards, just like tough, just dirty yards, just 3 yards, cloud of dust type stuff. And you have to be able to do those. But this, staying on your feet here.
Numbers explode.
So he's contacted here. He outruns 90. Contacted here. Spins out of it almost
And he's still on
completely.
his feet inside Indianapolis territory.
That was almost a huge run.
And they pitch it
Screen,
to
I
Chase
should
Brown.
say.
He goes to his right, not much is there. Trying to come back to the left, not much is there again.
Quite a few tackles for a loss, I would say.
What's going on down the field?
They hand it off to Brown. Brown running to his left. And Brown, wow, what a quick burst.
This is just running to the corner. We talked about this when we did the film review.
Much is there again.
Process what's going on down the field.
But when he sees this blocking here, like this is designed to go inside, obviously. You can see all the second level blocks happening. But he sees the DN peeking inside, and he goes, I can hit that. And I can outrace these guys. And good blocking by Jamar Chase.
There you go. Brown to his right. Brown knocked down by Zier.
This is another change of direction play that was really, really nice to watch from the end zone angle.
There you go. Brown.
That cut.
His right. Brown knocked down by Zaire Franklin. Browning's under pressure by Buckner. Dumps it off underneath. He's got Chase Brown, and Brown,
The rookie out of
For him to get a yard out of that was actually impressive.
in motion. He's going to get the swing pass. The Vikings are all over that, but he slips a tackle.
So this is one of those where I said we're getting later in the year now. We're starting to see him run through contact.
He's going to get the swing pass. The Vikings are all over that, but he slips a tackle.
Browning gets it out to the flat to Chase Brown right away. And over the last few weeks, that's something we've seen from Browning.
Remember, he's listed at 5'10 plus at 212. He's not small, and he's really well built.
Nearly 50. Brown in the backfield, and he'll get the toss. And a big pop, and he's going to get it on the screen. He's
Another
got some
screen.
space. That could be trouble. He gets
If he didn't
spun
run into Volson there, right, that could have been a huge play.
He got measured in at 20.8 miles per hour during a camp sprinting drill. Brown in the back measured
I believe he picks this up, if I remember correctly. So,
20.8 miles per
you know, contact here, 2 yards short of the line of scrimmage, 3 yards short of the first down.
hour during a camp
And he's able to
sprinting
fight through and lean forward and get that.
drill. Brown in the backfield. Browning will swing it out to the rookie. Tries to split the defenders. 6. Mike Hilton with a critical goal line interception to keep Minnesota off.
So those plays earlier that were ending in a tackles for loss. Here he is navigating this just a little bit more, having a little bit more patience and timing and know how to get through these guys. Some of those were unavoidable before. This one, though, does a good job bouncing inside of that one, getting his hand on his own blocker that's losing, bouncing it back out, and then cutting it up.
Interception to keep Minnesota off the scoreboard. Seconds left. Bengals still have one timeout left, but it'll be Brown on the carry. Pitch out to Brown. He's got some space and a first down. Touchdown lead, and so now it's up to Jake Browning. He'll hand it out to Chase Brown.
This is another one that I really enjoyed because you're going to see here how the edge isn't really winning. Look at like Jonah Williams, right? He's behind the line here. I think this is Drew Sample. We've got to bring Mitch Wilcox, winding him all the way around. So what's Chase Brown got to do here is he sees the DN right in his face, is he's got to wind all the way around. And you can't do that if you're a slow back. This does not work if you're slow. You'll get ridden out of bounds quickly.
He'll hand it out to Chase Brown.
And that's actually a very good run.
Under 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes to go. The Bengals will put it on the ground.
Really stepped up as that number one option once again. Chase Brown, first carry of the game, explodes forward and picks up Steelers play with Pittsburgh last year as well. As Chase Brown has the handoff, bounce it to the outside. Jack couldn't corral him, and Brown.
So again, another example of him starting to work through contact later in the season.
Chase Brown has the handoff.
One guy there, now cut it up and you go against the grain from that nickel corner. Fight through him and a linebacker and Cam Hayward coming across. And he still ends up, I think, getting the first down here.
Brown to go as Boyd is sent in motion. Chase Brown on the first down carry. And he just
running through contact. Watch him run through Drew Sample.
Chase Brown on the first down carry. And he just stumbles
Probably
over
not ideal, but
the traditional uniforms of both these teams and the color scheme is obviously great. But it does now for Cincinnati to make it 1st and 25. Dump it, Chase Brown, a lot of speed, but he can't utilize it there.
Highsmith has had a day today.
Chase Brown, first down carry, scampers forward.
Again, running through the contact, right?
Had a day today.
Especially inside running for a guy known as a speed guy. That's tough running. He had a lot of touches and carries at Illinois.
Out of the backfield, they get it to Chase Brown. And he's out of bounds. 3 for 3 on third down conversions. Here's a first down, tackle behind the line for a loss, third down.
See, even hear the announcer there saying tackle behind the line for a loss. He's hit 4 yards behind the line. Watch, he gets back to the line.
Here's a first down, tackle behind the line for a loss of 1. Here they toss it to that rookie, Chase Brown. We've mentioned a few times, and he's pushed back. They go to Chase Brown.
Again here, why is this run impressive? Watch him lean outside like, okay, I need to wind this all the way around. As we saw earlier, the D end, or he's not actually D end, that's a 3 number, 30 number. He's going to say, okay, I got to get outside, contain, and you're going to watch Chase Brown use that against him and go back and cut back inside. Which, again, he's turning those maybe potentially solid hits or tackles and 2 guys with arm tackles, not going to be able to bring them down. And again, we're going to talk about a 2-yard run, but these are the dirty runs you have to have.
Browning set up a screen for Brown. Does he get a chance to turn it on?
Again, running through contact. Look at that. Running through contact after the screens. He was so good and explosive on screen passes.
That's why we...
Like, again, we are now to the point now where he is breaking tackles and running through and through contact, staying balanced, contact balance.
This time to Brown up the middle, and Brown has stood up.
So one goes for a loss that time.
There's no doubt that he has that kind of arm strength as well. Here's Chase Brown, and Brown's got
this is also,
Cleveland.
Let's enjoy it, but also a very nice run. Watch how he toys with 51 here, and I may want to go back just a little bit. Watch how he toys with that linebacker when he gets to this spot right here between he and Jonah. So the linebacker goes right to Jonah, tries to take the force to him, the force Chase Brown in another direction. Watch Brown. Inside, outside, gone. You barely get a hand on him at that point. So not even turning it into an arm tackle attempt. That's basically just hands in your thigh. Good luck. Running through, leaning, finishing with forward with power. You can turn speed into power.
The AFC South and host the Browns next week. Chase Brown off the pitch. That's pretty impressive to see what he's been able to accomplish. Brown
Brown yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love this run. I absolutely love this run. Making a guy miss in the hole like this. I mean, that's one-on-one. It's the easy as it gets. This is basic football that everyone is doing these drills from a young age. Put these guys in between the cones and say, all right, you got to tackle the runner. And for you to bang.
Brown breaks a tackle. Brown taking a page.
And then hit top speed.
And he speeds into Cleveland territory.
So he goes from a stop-start, full speed.
There's the speed that you're talking about, Tom. Mixing over 100 already.
Not a total shock because they do like to throw the football. Brown is stopped.
Nothing there, absolutely.
In fact, it was Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals. He was his college coach for A.J. McCarron and the Bengals.
A.J. McCarron got in this game. That's right. 31-0. Bengals up.
In the same division that the Ravens are the #1 scoring defense.
That's right.
So
tough sledding here.
Chase Brown out of the backfield breaks the tackle, and Brown trying to get to the first
Making
down.
guys miss, finishing with authority. There you go.
Out of the backfield breaks the tackle, and Brown trying to get to the first down marker with the Broncos. Chase Brown running left, and Brown, not much is there. And Brown is spun down after maybe getting back to the line.
Tough sledding in this final game for him, other than a couple of really nice runs. Making two guys miss, though. Can I go back? Yeah, there we go. Next one. Making two guys miss in the backfield, though, is a good sign. Right here. I mean, we went over this, I remember, in the film review now. Jonah getting beat there at the end. But, all right, I got two guys running free at me. Can I split them and get something out of it? This is the backup offensive line also for the second half of the game. Other than Jonah. So that was it. So, yeah, keep on bringing up those expectations for Chase Brown. I think we have potential here to have a fun player on offense and add one. And I already think he's that. But, I mean, if he's just Jalen Warren, that's fine. We'll take that, of course. But I think there's a chance he's Austin Eckler. And if that's the case, that's what I'm talking about. Like, what a big boost to the offense that could potentially be. So he's going to get drafted higher and higher, I think, the closer we get to fantasy drafts. So if you're doing an early one, take advantage of the value now, because I think he's only going to get hotter as we get closer to the season. Two other announcements real quick. Bengals have announced 2 joint practices, one with the Indianapolis Colts. That'll be open to season ticket members and VIPs. That was like similar to the Packers joint practice last year. I was able to go with that and through First Star Logistics because they're one of the sponsors and VIPs and they own a suite. So yeah, we got access that way. But the other one is the Chicago Bears, which is more interesting to me because the Bears are going to be on Hard Knocks. So that joint practice before a game, we're going to get a couple episodes, more than likely. Maybe it might just be one episode, but I bet there'll be enough content there that they can create 2 out of it. So if you are not a Hard Knocks watcher, or if you weren't planning on it, now you might have a reason for at least one episode, as the Bengals Bears will have a joint practice and then their game. So they do have a game, right? See, this is why you don't say things without actually knowing that. Doesn't matter. They'll at least be in one episode. This has been Bengals on the Brain, episode number 90, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry. Until then, or until next time, next week. Hooday.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.